Ladies, let me tell you something. When you go silent, something powerful happens. The noise that used to fill his world, your laughter, your questions, your check-ins, your reminders, it's suddenly gone. At first, he might think it's nothing. He might think you're just busy having a long day or taking a little break. But as the hours stretch, that silence starts to grow louder and louder. It sits in his chest and forces him to think. See, most men don't start processing a situation until there's nothing else left to distract them. Your silence becomes the alarm clock that wakes him up. It's human nature to take consistency for granted. When someone is always there, always talking, always giving, we stop noticing the value they bring. We get comfortable. But when you go quiet, it shakes that comfort zone. Suddenly, he's replaying your last conversation, wondering what he said, what he missed, what he overlooked. That pause makes him reflect in ways that words could never make him. He might not admit it, but your silence is often more powerful than any argument you could have. And this isn't about playing games. Silence isn't meant to manipulate. It's meant to create space. Space for him to feel the absence of your energy. Space for him to step up and show you that he notices something has shifted. Most men are problem solvers by nature. When they see something is off, they want to fix it. But first, they have to see that something is off. Talking, explaining, nagging, reminding. Sometimes it all just becomes background noise. Silence is what cuts through all of that. It's the quiet moment that says something is wrong, and I'm waiting to see if you care enough to notice. Here's what usually happens next. At first, he'll check to see if this is temporary. Maybe he sends a casual text. Maybe he drops a simple, "You good?" If you stay quiet, his curiosity turns into concern. He might start thinking about how much you mean to him, how much he doesn't want to lose your presence. That's when you start seeing the shift. The man who was slow to reply suddenly replies fast. The man who didn't notice small things suddenly starts paying attention. Silence has a way of making someone step into action if they truly value you. But here's the beautiful part. Even if he doesn't notice, even if he stays distant, you still win. Why? Because silence is clarity. If your quiet is met with his quiet, you just got your answer. You just learned how much he's willing to invest when you stop giving. And that lesson is priceless. So when you go silent, don't think of it as punishment. Think of it as a mirror. It shows him his reflection, his effort, his consistency, his commitment. And it shows you whether or not he deserves your words, your time, and your love. Because the right man won't let the silence last too long. He'll notice, he'll act, and he'll make sure that silence turns back into conversation, into connection, into something stronger than before. When the silence sets in, words stop being the currency of the relationship. Actions take over. This is where you really see what a man is made of. Anybody can talk a good game. Anybody can say, "I care about you," or "You mean a lot to me." But when you stop feeding the conversation, when you pull back and stop doing all the emotional labor, it becomes crystal clear whether his words were just noise or if they had real weight behind them. A man's actions are the truth he can't hide. When you go quiet, the first thing to watch is whether he comes closer or drifts away. If he calls you, checks in on you, shows up where he knows you'll be, that's effort. That's him saying, without saying, "I notice you're gone and I don't like how that feels." On the other hand, if he just vanishes into the background, if he goes days without even trying to figure out what's wrong, that's an answer too. It tells you exactly where you stand on his list of priorities. See, silence strips away excuses. It removes the back and forth that can cover up the truth. When you're not texting first, not reminding him to call, not carrying the weight of the connection, you get to see if he's willing to carry it on his own. And this is important because relationships are not supposed to be one-sided. You shouldn't have to beg for attention, beg for consistency, beg for the bare minimum. If he really wants you, you'll feel it in the way he shows up, not just in the way he talks when everything's easy. Actions don't lie. If he's serious, he won't let too much time pass before he makes a move. He'll ask what's wrong. He'll try to fix it. He might even step out of his comfort zone just to show you he's paying attention. This is where you see if he's just around for convenience or if he's really invested. A man who truly values you doesn't wait for you to spell everything out. He takes initiative. He becomes consistent. He does the work. But let's be clear. This is not about chasing or testing someone for sport. It's about observing what's real. People reveal themselves in how they respond to your silence. Someone who only wants the benefits of your energy will go looking for that energy somewhere else the moment you stop giving it. Someone who truly sees your worth will fill the gap you left and try to fill it with their own effort. This is why silence can be such a gift. It puts the spotlight on him. It makes you stop over-explaining and gives you the chance to watch. And what you see is often the truth you needed all along. If he matches your effort, if he steps up, if he fights for the connection, you'll know he's real. If he doesn't, you've just saved yourself months, maybe years of wasted energy on someone who was never willing to invest. So let his actions speak. Pay attention not just to the grand gestures, but to the small, consistent moves he makes. Because those little things add up to the big picture. And if the picture shows you a man who respects your silence, who cares enough to bridge the gap, then you've got someone who's worth talking to again. But if the picture shows you a man who disappears, let that silence stay. It just told you everything you needed to know. When you go quiet, it's not just your words he loses, it's your whole energy. Your presence has weight, whether you realize it or not. The way you light up a room, the way you bring laughter, the way you keep conversations alive. All of that creates a rhythm that he gets used to. And when that rhythm stops, when that familiar energy is no longer there, it leaves a space that feels empty. At first, he might think it's just a small gap, but the longer the silence lasts, the more that space feels like a hole that only you can fill. Men sometimes don't recognize how much they rely on your energy until it's gone. They think it's normal to have someone who listens to their stories, who checks in on them, who asks how their day went. They think it's normal to have someone who cheers them on, who motivates them, who believes in their potential. But when you step back and stop pouring that love and encouragement into him, he starts to feel the difference. His days don't feel as full. His mood isn't the same. The little spark you brought into his world is missing, and it starts to bother him. The funny thing about energy is that it lingers even when you're not there. He'll catch himself remembering things you said, laughing at jokes you made, replaying moments in his head. Your silence will remind him of the joy you brought when you were speaking, and that memory starts to pull on him. The quiet becomes a contrast. It makes him appreciate the sound of your voice, the warmth of your presence, the comfort of knowing you were always there. This is why your silence is powerful. It doesn't just create absence. It creates awareness. It forces him to measure what you bring into his life. Most men, when they feel that void, will start looking for ways to close it. Maybe he'll send a message just to see if you respond. Maybe he'll call. Maybe he'll show up. He might even start doing things he never did before just to draw you back in. That's when you know he's feeling the weight of your absence. But here's the important part. Him missing your energy isn't just about what it does to him. It's about what it does for you. When someone truly misses you, they don't just say it. They show it. They start appreciating what you gave them, and they either rise to meet you or risk losing you for good. And that clarity is priceless, because if he doesn't miss your energy, if he doesn't notice that you're gone, then you've just learned how little he valued it. That's your cue to keep your peace, keep your distance, and save your energy for someone who actually sees it. Your energy is not free. It's not something that should be given endlessly without return. When you go silent and he starts to miss it, that's his chance to prove he's worthy of it. That's his chance to step up, to match the love you were given, to pour back into you what you poured into him. And if he does, you'll know that your presence was never wasted. If he doesn't, then you just protected the most valuable thing you have, your energy, from being drained by someone who never deserved it. When you go silent, something shifts inside him, and that shift can be uncomfortable. Silence has a way of putting a man face to face with himself. There's no distraction, no back and forth conversation, no noise to drown out the reality of what's going on. He's left alone with his own thoughts, and that can be unsettling. Most people are used to constant stimulation, texts, calls, notifications, conversations. When your voice is suddenly missing from his world, it forces him to sit in that empty space. That's when the discomfort starts to creep in. At first, he might try to brush it off. He'll tell himself you're probably just busy, that you'll eventually come around. But the longer the silence stretches, the more that voice in the back of his head starts talking. Why isn't she calling? Did I do something wrong? Did I miss something? Those questions can make him restless, and restlessness often turns into action. Not because you demanded it, but because his own thoughts won't let him stay still. That discomfort is actually healthy. It wakes him up. When everything is easy and predictable, it's easy to coast. Silence takes away the safety net and forces him to realize that nothing is guaranteed. The connection he enjoys with you isn't automatic. It's something that has to be nurtured. That uncomfortable feeling makes him reevaluate how he's been showing up. Has he been taking you for granted? Has he been lazy with his effort? Has he been giving you less than you deserve? These are questions he can't avoid when the quiet gets too loud. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to say a single word to make this happen. Silence does the talking for you. Instead of arguing, instead of pleading, instead of explaining, you let the absence speak. And that absence becomes the mirror that makes him look at himself. The discomfort he feels isn't about you punishing him. It's about him recognizing that something is off and that he might be the reason why. Now, not every man will handle this discomfort the same way. A man who truly cares will lean into it. He'll take that uneasy feeling as a sign that he needs to act, that he needs to close the distance, that he needs to make things right. He might reach out, plan something thoughtful, or simply take accountability for whatever caused the silence. That's growth. That's what discomfort is supposed to do. Push someone to improve. But some men will do the opposite. They'll run from that feeling. They'll distract themselves, avoid the issue, or pretend it doesn't bother them. And that reaction is just as revealing. If he can sit comfortably in your silence for days, weeks, without even checking in, that tells you all you need to know about where you stand in his life. Discomfort is a teacher. It shows him and you the truth of the situation. So don't fear making someone uncomfortable with your silence. That's where real change happens. That's where real priorities get revealed. If he cares, he'll close the gap. If he doesn't, then you just saved yourself from investing more time into someone who was never willing to grow. Either way, the discomfort was worth it because it led you to clarity, and clarity is power. When the silence lingers, that's when the mask comes off. Silence has a way of stripping away performances and pretenses. When you stop reaching out, stop initiating, stop keeping the energy alive, you get to see who he really is. Not who he says he is, but who he shows himself to be. Words can hide a lot, but actions under pressure are always honest. When things get quiet, his true colors will start to shine through. And sometimes what you see is exactly what you needed to know all along. If he truly values you, you'll feel it. He won't just sit back and let the connection fade into nothing. He'll take notice and try to bridge the gap. Maybe he'll text first. Maybe he'll call. Maybe he'll show up to talk face to face. Whatever it is, you'll see effort. Effort is what tells you where you stand. A man who cares won't leave you hanging for too long. He'll fight through his pride, his busyness, his distractions to make sure you know he still wants to be there. His true colors will reveal a man who values communication, who values your presence, and who doesn't want to risk losing you. But if he doesn't care as much as you thought he did, that silence will expose him too. You'll notice how easy it is for him to go about his life without checking in, how quickly he adjusts to not hearing from you. That realization can hurt, but it's also liberating. Because now you know the truth. Now you can stop pouring into someone who wasn't pouring back into you. Silence becomes a filter, removing the people who were only half invested, leaving you with the clarity to protect your energy and move forward. This is why silence is powerful. It's not just about giving him time to think. It's about giving yourself time to observe. Instead of reacting emotionally or chasing answers, you just watch. You watch how he behaves when you're not around. You watch how long it takes him to notice the shift. You watch what he prioritizes when he's left to make the next move. And what you see is often the clearest clearest picture of who he really is. The truth is, real connections don't just disappear when one person stops talking. If someone truly sees your worth, they'll come looking for you. They won't let silence be the end. They'll use it as a signal that something needs to be fixed. But someone who's just there for convenience, someone who's just enjoying the benefits without truly valuing you, will let the silence stretch on until the connection dies. And that's your sign to let it go. When he shows his true colors, it's not your job to repaint them. It's not your job to convince him to be who you need. You simply take what you see and decide if it matches the life you want to build. If his true colors show you a man who is consistent, caring, and willing to grow, then you know you have someone worth investing in. If his true colors reveal neglect, selfishness, or apathy, then you just saved yourself from a future filled with disappointment. Silence is the stage where truth steps forward. It's where you stop guessing and start knowing. And once you see those true colors, you can make decisions from a place of strength. No begging, no over-explaining, no chasing, just clarity. And clarity will always put you in the position of power. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you can ever use because it shifts the balance of control back into your hands. When you stop speaking, stop explaining, stop overgiving, you stop feeding the dynamic that may have been draining you. Silence says, without words, I am no longer going to fight for something by myself. It takes all the pressure off of you to fix, to chase, to prove your worth, and places the responsibility where it belongs, on him. When you stay quiet, you are not being passive, you are being intentional. There is a difference between shutting down and taking your power back. Shutting down is emotional withdrawal. Taking your power back is saying, I'm going to give you space to show me who you are. That is strength, because instead of reacting out of anger, hurt, or fear, you're creating room for clarity. You're allowing his actions to answer the questions you've been asking. Silence also protects your energy. Arguments, constant explaining, and chasing someone for effort can be exhausting. It drains your emotional and mental reserves. When you choose silence, you protect your peace. You give yourself a chance to calm down, to think clearly, to see the situation for what it really is. And from that place of calm, you are able to make better decisions. Decisions that serve you, not just your emotions in the moment. Another reason silence is powerful is because it creates scarcity. When your energy and attention are always available, people can start to take it for granted. They get comfortable, assuming you'll always be there no matter what they do or don't do. But when you go quiet, when you stop giving them that constant access, they start to realize just how much they were receiving from you. And most people will start to value what they're afraid of losing. Silence reminds them that you are not guaranteed. You are a choice they have to earn. It also allows you to watch things unfold without interference. Sometimes we talk so much, we don't give people a chance to show us their true intentions. We keep explaining our needs, thinking maybe they didn't understand, maybe we didn't say it clearly enough. But silence is crystal clear. It says everything that needs to be said, I've said my piece. Now I'm watching to see if you care enough to respond. What happens next is the truth, and truth is power. And here's the biggest secret. Silence is attractive. It shows confidence. It shows you are not desperate, not clinging, not begging for attention. It says I can be at peace with myself whether you step up or not. That kind of energy draws respect. It forces people to meet you where you are instead of dragging you down to a level of constant explaining and convincing. So use silence as your strength, not as a weapon to hurt someone, but as a shield to protect yourself. Let it create space for growth, for reflection, for truth to rise to the surface. Because in that quiet, everything becomes clear. Who's willing to try? Who's willing to fight for you? And who was never meant to stay? And when you have that clarity, you hold all the power. You get to choose what happens next. Not out of fear or desperation, but out of self-respect.